They thought I was invisible, an omega born for nothing but labor, scrubbing floors until my knuckles bled, fetching goblets like a silent shadow. That's why the Luna chose me. Not because I was strong, not because I was pretty, but because I was powerless. She made me serve closest to her bed. I'd be on my knees polishing the silver frame while she dragged her alpha beneath silk sheets, moaning loud enough to break me. She thought it was humiliation. She thought it was her game. But the more the alpha watched me from over her shoulder, the more his control frayed. His silver eyes lingered too long. His chest rose too sharply when my hands trembled. The first time he touched me, it was madness. The second time, it became obsession. And the Luna? She was already plotting bloody revenge. If you believe fate can be cruel, hit subscribe. Because you won't believe how far betrayal will go when it's carved beneath the Luna's bed. My name is Alara, 21, Omega of the Silver Fang Pack. I wish I could tell you I mattered, that my bloodline carried power, or that my voice was worth hearing. But the truth is simpler, crueler. Omegas don't matter. We exist to serve, to scrub, bow, and disappear. Yet even in a world where I was meant to be invisible, the Luna found me. Her name was Celine. Regal, raven-haired, her presence dripped with venom wrapped in velvet. She could have chosen any servant, but she wanted me. Not for kindness, not for favor, for sport. On your knees, little mouse, she would purr, and I obeyed, always obeyed. Crawling across marble floors with trays of goblets, washing her perfume-soaked gowns, scrubbing the crimson stains from sheets I was forced to carry down the stairs at dawn. But lately, her cruelty had taken a darker turn. "Stay," she'd order, eyes glittering like broken glass. And so I stayed, at the foot of her bed, while she tangled herself with the alpha. I should have closed my eyes. I should have prayed for the ground to swallow me whole. Instead, I forced myself to stare at the silver bed frame, polishing until my hands cramped, pretending I couldn't hear the sounds above me. But there was no pretending when I felt his gaze. Alpha Damien, the man the whole pack revered. Broad shoulders carved like stone, his silver eyes sharp as the moon itself. He never spoke to me, not once, but his silence was worse than words, because his eyes, they never looked away. I felt them burning into me as Celine gasped his name, clawing down his back. I felt his chest heave harder when my hands shook, when the tray rattled against the floor. And then, one night, it happened. Celine snapped her fingers at me for wine. My knees protested as I crawled forward, tray balanced with trembling hands. I lifted the goblet. He reached for it, and his fingers brushed mine. A jolt like lightning slammed through my veins. My heart leapt to my throat, and I nearly dropped the tray. His eyes locked on mine for a fraction of a second, silver, storming, hungry. Celine laughed, cruel and sharp, tossing her head back. "Careful, Ilara." My alpha bites. Her words were meant to slice me down, to remind me I was nothing but prey. But the truth? He already had. With just one touch, that night, I lay awake on the thin straw mattress in the servants' quarters, my hands shaking as if they still held his. My skin burned where his fingers brushed mine, and for the first time in my life, I feared something more than Celine's cruelty. I feared the bond pulling me toward him, and I knew, if I didn't fight it, it would destroy me. Celine's next command forces Ilara even closer to the bed, where Damien can no longer keep his control in check. Celine's summons came at moonrise, 3 sharp chimes from the silver bell that made every servant flinch. I climbed the stairs with the tray, wine, water, a small bowl of crushed moonbloom leaves that smelled like frost and sugar. My hands didn't shake. Not tonight. Fear had burned itself out and left something steadier, something like anger cooling into glass. The Luna's door was already open. Candlelight pooled across the stone, the great bed draped in white gauze like a bridal shroud. Celine lounged against a mound of pillows, raven hair spilling over her shoulders, a smile that showed teeth. "Good," she purred, eyes sliding over me. Our little mouse answers quickly. Damien stood at the balcony, shirtless, the night wind carving his silhouette into the dark. The moon caught on the scars across his back, silver lines like claw marks healed long ago. He didn't turn when I entered, but the air shifted as if the room itself inhaled. I set the tray on the table, bowed. "Luna." She crooked a finger. "Closer." I obeyed, kneeling at the edge of the bed. I could smell the wine and her perfume, amber and something sharper beneath. The alpha's scent curled through it, cedar and winter rain, cool and clean until it caught in my throat and set every nerve alight. Celine lifted the bowl of crushed leaves and smiled. "The alpha's muscles are tight. Rub this into his shoulders." She let the moment hang, then added sweetly, "With your hands." My mouth went dry. "Luna, Her gaze cut like a blade. "Do you refuse me?" I didn't. I couldn't. "No." Damien turned finally. His eyes found mine in the soft light, and for a heartbeat, the world narrowed to the space between us and the way his chest lifted, deeper, slower. He sat on the bed's edge with his back to me. "Make it quick," he said, voice low enough to scrape. I dipped my fingers into the moon bloom. Cold shot up my arms. When I touched his shoulders, both of us flinched. Him from shock, me from the jolt that slammed through the bond like lightning hitting water. Heat met cold, and the scent of cedar sharpened until it was all I could breathe. Celine watched, chin in her palm, smiling like a queen at a play. "Press harder, little mouse." I did. My hands glided over stone. Tension knotted along his neck and shoulder blades. The scars were smooth beneath my fingertips. My pulse counted them like prayers. Damien didn't move, but the muscles in his jaw flexed. His breath deepened. The bond hummed, a wire strung too tight. "Slow," Celine murmured. "Make him feel it." My throat closed. This was the game. Use me until I broke, and then call it mercy. But beneath my hands, the alpha trembled. Just once. Then he caught my wrist, quick, hot, a clamp of fingers that said, "Stop and please don't," in the same breath. Celine's smile thinned. "Problem, my love?" Damien released me with a careful exhale. "The leaves are strong," he said, voice even. "Enough." Celine's eyes glittered. For a moment, the mask slipped and something hungry looked out. "As you wish," she said. Then she leaned forward, hooked a knuckle under my chin, and tipped my face up. "You're very pretty when you try not to feel." I kept my gaze down. "Luna." She laughed softly. "I think you should stay tonight." My stomach plunged. "Stay?" Celine slid off the bed, walked around me with slow, circling steps, the way a cat measures a bird. She flicked the gauze under the bed with her toes. Candlelight spilled into the dark gap between the frame and the floor. "You may sleep beneath us," she said, "close enough to remember your place." My breath caught. "Luna, there are quarters." "There is my will," she said, voice silked with steel. "And there is everything else." Damien said nothing. He had gone still again, that terrifying alpha stillness that could mean rage or restraint. The moon through the balcony doors cut his profile in silver. He did not look at me, and somehow that hurt more than being seen. I slid onto my side and wormed under the bed. The wood smelled of lavender oil and old varnish. The world shrank to low beams and dust, and the sweep of white gauze above me, shivering with each breath the Alpha and Luna took. I turned onto my back and stared up at the slats. That's when I saw it. Claw marks, shallow and deliberate, scored into the underside of the bed frame. 4 neat strokes, then a symbol that made my skin pebble. A crescent carved through a circle, a drop etched at the edge. An oath rune. My grandmother had whispered of such marks in the servants' hall, back when I was small enough to sit on flour sacks and pretend stories were bread. By blood and moon, the Luna keeps what is hers. I touched the groove with the pad of my finger. The wood felt cold as bone. Celine climbed back onto the mattress, sheets whispering. The bed dipped, and the gauze brushed my cheek. I could hear her laughter melt into a pleased sigh. "Do you hear that, little mouse?" she breathed. "That's what power sounds like." I closed my eyes. The bond climbed my ribs like a hand, pressing until I wanted to sob. The cedar scent was everywhere. Damien's breath came slow, controlled. But when Celine murmured his name, something in him slipped. His hand fell to the side of the bed, fingers trailing the edge as if to anchor himself. They dangled inches from my face. I stared at them, at the veins and the clean half-moons of his nails. He didn't know where I was. Or he did and couldn't stop. His fingers grazed the gauze. Then lower. Found a strand of my hair where it spilled onto the floorboards. Caught. He stilled. I forgot how to breathe. Celine's voice floated down, lazy with satisfaction. "Do you like our pet, my love?" Silence. His fingers loosened, a caress disguised as nothing. The smallest pressure, the smallest mercy. The bond surged so hard I bit my lip to keep from making a sound. "Answer me," Celine said, sudden acid under the sugar. Damien's hand lifted. The gauze stirred, then went still. When he spoke, his voice was cool as winter. "You choose well," he said, "for service." Celine hummed, pleased again. The bed creaked. The oath rune above me caught candlelight and threw it back as a thin, pale glint, like a knife's smile. I lay in the dark and counted my heartbeats until they stopped trying to break my ribs. I told myself this was survivable. I told myself I was stone. But sometime after the candles guttered and the room sank into blue moonlight, a whisper curled through the slats. A breath against my ear I might have dreamed. "Elara." My name, shaped like a sin. My eyes flew open. I stared up into darkness so complete it rang. The bed didn't move. Celine's breathing stayed slow, but at the edge, the far edge where the mattress met the frame, a shadow shifted. A weight leaned down, just enough for the faintest warmth to find my cheek. "Sleep," the voice said, rough with something he wasn't letting out. "Breathe." Then softer, almost swallowed by the night. "Mine." The bond snapped tight as a noose. A sound sliced the room, fingernail on glass. "Celine." "Did you say something, Damien?" Her tone was light, deadly. Damien's reply came like a door closing. "No." Silence fell, heavy as snow. Under the bed, my hands shook. I pressed my palms flat to the floor and found the rune again, cold and unyielding, as if the wood itself remembered blood. Would you forgive a mate who speaks your name like a vow in the dark, while lying to the Luna above you? Or would you burn the whole bed to ash? Tell me in the comments. The moon slid toward the window's edge. Somewhere far below, a wolf howled, thin and lonely. I fixed my gaze on the shallow carving and made a promise to no one but myself. If the Luna kept what was hers, I would learn what, exactly, I was, and why the Alpha's mind didn't feel like a theft. It felt like a warning, A new command pushes me from humiliation into danger, and the first line is crossed where no vow can hide it. The day bled into night like ink spilled over parchment. I spent the hours like a ghost, fetching wine, washing linens, obeying every order Celine tossed over her shoulder. My body moved, but my mind was trapped beneath that bed, replaying the way Damien's hand had brushed my hair, the way my name had sounded on his tongue. When the council arrived, the air in the great hall thickened with smoke and roasted meat. Firelight danced across polished shields. Wolves of the high ranks laughed too loudly, their cups overflowing with spiced wine. I carried the trays like a shadow, bowing low so they would not see the heat in my cheeks. Every time I passed near Damien's chair, his scent pierced through the haze, cedar and rain, sharp and clean, clashing with the musky perfume of Celine's amber oils. The contrast made me dizzy. He sat tall, silent, the weight of his presence holding the room steady like a keystone. But his eyes, they found me, always. Silver, unblinking, storming. When the council finally dispersed into the night, I thought I might escape to the servants' quarters. But Celine's fingers curled around my wrist like a trap snapping shut. "Not yet, little mouse." Her voice purred, low and dangerous. She dragged me up the stairs, her laughter spilling ahead of us like poisoned honey. The alpha followed, steps heavier than thunder. My knees shook as she shoved open the chamber door. The room glowed with candlelight, gold bleeding across the bed's white silks, shadows stretching long against the stone walls. The air was thick with wine and perfume, too sweet, cloying, as if it meant to smother me. Celine spun, still clutching my wrist, and ripped the thin shawl from my shoulders. The silk puddled on the floor, leaving only the shift she'd given me. White, sheer, a mockery of purity. I felt the cold immediately, every candle draft brushing over my skin, every heartbeat too loud in my chest. My cheeks burned. I wanted to fold into myself, vanish. But Damien's eyes pinned me in place. His chest rose sharply, the cords of muscle across his torso flexing. His nostrils flared as if scenting the air, and what he found made his jaw lock tight. His fists curled at his sides, the veins in his forearms raised like lines of molten steel. "Celine," he said, voice rough, warning. Her smile widened, cruel and triumphant. "This is my gift to you, Alpha. Proof of my power. Do you see how she obeys?" She shoved me toward the bed. My knees buckled, and I collapsed onto the rug, its fibers coarse, scratching my skin through the thin shift. Celine circled him, her hand sliding across his chest, nails grazing the scars carved into his skin. "Tell me, my love," she murmured, eyes never leaving mine. "Do you want her?" The room stopped breathing. The fire popped, sending sparks dancing. The perfume stung my throat. The bond in my chest pulled tight, unbearable, like silver wire cutting through bone. Damien's eyes darkened, storm clouds devouring the moon. His breath came faster now, heavier, the sound filling the chamber louder than the fire. I could see the struggle in him, the alpha's restraint, the man's hunger, tearing against each other like beasts in the same cage. Celine's nails pressed harder into his chest. "Answer me." His gaze dropped to me, kneeling, trembling, flushed in the firelight. My pulse pounded in my ears. I could feel every thread of the rug beneath my knees, every bead of sweat trailing down my back, every heartbeat begging for his word. When it came, it broke the world. "Yes." The sound was gravel dragged across stone, rough and raw. Celine froze, her hand on his chest stilled. Slowly, her smile cracked like porcelain splintering. "What did you say?" Her voice was silk stretched too thin. Damien's chest heaved once, twice. He stepped forward, deliberate, unstoppable. His silver gaze never left mine. "Yes," he repeated, louder now, the words scraping with hunger and defiance. "I want her." The bond roared like fire catching dry wood. My body shivered, every nerve aflame, and in that moment I knew something sacred had shattered, something no oath rune could repair. Celine's fury erupts, and her first strike at revenge will leave blood behind. Celine didn't scream. That would have been mercy. Her face went cold, her smile carved sharp as a blade. She stepped away from Damien as if he were dirt, as if I were filth that had stained her gown. "Want her?" she whispered. The softness of her voice was worse than a shout. "You dare want what is mine?" Damien said nothing. His silver eyes burned into me still, but his body was taut, frozen, a wolf chained. Celine's gaze snapped to me. "Up!" My knees shook as I stood. My shift clung to me in the candlelight, shame burning hotter than the fire. "Take the tray," she ordered. "Serve him." I moved toward the table, hands trembling as I lifted the goblet. The wine shimmered crimson, thick and sweet. I could feel her eyes drilling into my back, waiting for me to falter. When I placed it in Damien's hand, our fingers brushed again. The spark jolted through me, sharper than before, almost unbearable. Celine saw it. Her lips curled, venom dripping. She clapped her hands once. "Strip the bed, Omega." My stomach dropped. "Luna, now." I obeyed, pulling back the silks, gathering the pillows, folding them against my chest. The bed still smelled of her perfume and his cedar scent tangled together, heavy and suffocating. Every breath was a brand on my lungs. Celine laughed softly. "Look at her," she cooed, circling me like a predator. The way her hands shake. The way her cheeks burn. "You're not even ashamed, are you, Mouse?" I lowered my gaze. "I serve as ordered." "Not well enough." Her hand struck, sharp, sudden. My cheek stung, the sound echoing in the chamber. Damien's head snapped up, his jaw clenched. For a heartbeat I thought he would move, but he stayed rooted, eyes storming, fists trembling. Celine's laughter filled the silence. "Oh, don't pout, my love!" "She needs to learn her place." She turned back to me, eyes glittering. "On your knees." At his feet my breath caught. "Luna, do it." I sank down, the rug scraping my knees. The goblet in Damien's hand trembled slightly, wine sloshing against the rim. His eyes were fixed on Celine now, unreadable, dangerous. Celine swept to the mirror, plucking a silver comb from the table. "Yes," she purred. "Stay there. Kneel for your alpha. Let him see the difference between a Luna and a servant." The bond screamed inside me, pulling taut, begging me to look at him. I didn't dare. My head stayed bowed, hair falling like a curtain over my face. But I felt it. His stare, heavy, scorching, searing down my spine. Celine's voice cut like ice. "Remember this, Omega. You will never be more than what I say you are. A toy. A shadow." Beneath my bed I swallowed hard. The rune under that bed flashed in my mind, cold grooves against my fingers. By blood and moon, the Luna keeps what is hers. But tonight, for the first time, I saw her hand tremble as she combed her hair. And I wondered, who was truly losing control? Celine's cruelty escalates into a ritualized punishment, forcing Ilara into danger that Damien can no longer ignore. The days after Damien's confession blurred into shadows. Celine didn't rage openly. No more slaps, no more shouted commands. No, she changed tactics. And somehow, that was worse. She smiled more often now. Soft, syrupy smiles that stuck to my skin like cobwebs. She called me pet in front of the other servants, her tone dripping with affection that fooled no one. And when Damien entered the chamber, her hand always rested on my shoulder, stroking idly as if I were a favored hound. The bond inside me snarled. My chest ached with the weight of it. But Celine's words, those were the true chains. At night, when Damien took the balcony and silence settled over the room, she'd crouch beside me where I knelt on the rug. Her perfume would choke me, her nails grazing my arm like talons. "You think you're different, don't you?" she whispered. "That you matter because his eyes linger." I said nothing. Silence was safer. She leaned closer, lips brushing my ear. "He's looked at others before you. Do you know how many little shadows have caught his hunger? Do you know how many I've buried?" A chill clawed up my spine. Her laugh was soft. "You think obsession is love?" "No, little mouse. Obsession is fire. It devours. And when he's done burning you, I'll sweep the ashes away." The next morning, she brought me a tray, bread, stew, a small vial of powder balanced beside it. "Eat," she said sweetly. I hesitated. "Luna, I am not hungry." Her eyes sharpened. "Eat." My hands shook as I broke the bread, dipped it into the stew. The smell was bitter beneath the herbs. She watched, smiling. "Moonbane, just a touch. Makes the body weak. Slows the blood. Keeps omegas soft." My chest tightened. "Luna." She pressed a finger to my lips. "Hush. I won't kill you. Yet. But I'll remind you, you belong here. On your knees. At my mercy when I rose. Hours later, my limbs were heavy, my skin clammy. The bond burned hotter, but my body couldn't match it. I nearly stumbled into the hall. And that's when I saw him, Damien. He stood in the shadows near the stairwell, arms crossed, silver eyes cutting through the dark. His nostrils flared as though he scented the moonbane on me. His jaw tightened, a low growl vibrating in his chest. Our eyes locked. For one breath, the world was only him, the fury in his gaze, the storm breaking loose. But then Celine appeared behind me, her hand resting lightly on my shoulder. "Come, pet," she said, voice sweet enough to rot teeth. "The alpha doesn't like disobedience." Damien's hands clenched, his nails biting his palms. His eyes told me what his mouth did not. He knew. He knew she was poisoning me. And if he didn't stop her soon, I wouldn't survive the next dose. Damien confronts Celine for the first time, and the mask of their bond cracks in front of Alara. The poison lingered in my veins for days. Every task felt heavier, every breath slower, as if the moon itself weighed on my shoulders. Yet Celine's smile never faltered. She draped me in silks like a doll, called me her precious shadow, and forced me to serve within arm's reach of the alpha. It was her game now, parading me as both pet and threat. One evening, I stood by the fire holding the wine jug when I felt it. A shift in the air, the weight of silver eyes. Damien sat in the high-backed chair, broad shoulders framed by flickering firelight. Celine curled against his side, her hand spread over his chest as if staking a claim. She tilted her head, smiling sweetly. "Our Omega seems pale, doesn't she, my love? Perhaps she's not strong enough for this service." Her nails trailed over his skin, deliberate, taunting. "Perhaps I should send her back to the kitchens. Unless..." She glanced at me, eyes glinting. "Unless you enjoy her here too much." The silence stretched, taut as wire. Damien set his goblet down with care. His voice came low, quiet enough that only those of us close could hear. "She serves well." Celine's smile sharpened. "Too well." His gaze flicked to me, then back to her. "Don't test me, Celine." My breath caught. The way he said her name, flat, warning, made the fire seem colder. But Celine only laughed, a silken ripple of sound. Oh, Alpha, I only test what is already weak. Their eyes locked, silver against storm dark. The bond between them, their mate tie, pulsed in the air, heavy and suffocating. Yet beneath it, I felt something else. The raw thread of mine pulling taut, fighting to claim space. Celine's nails dug into his chest. You forget yourself, she hissed softly. And you forget me, he growled, so low I barely heard it. His jaw clenched, shoulders rigid. Do not touch her again. The words struck me like a blow. My heart stuttered, heat rising to my cheeks. He hadn't said my name, but I knew. Celine's eyes narrowed to slits. She leaned close, lips brushing his ear, whispering venom I could not hear, but her smile when she pulled back, it was the smile of someone who had already chosen blood. Damien's hands fisted on the armrests. He didn't move, didn't strike, didn't roar. But his silence carried more threat than a snarl ever could. I kept my head bowed, forcing my hands steady as I poured the wine. But inside, my pulse thundered. The Alpha had spoken, and Celine had heard. This war would not stay quiet much longer. The summons came at dusk. The pack was gathering in the great hall, a feast in honor of the half-moon hunt. Servants rushed with trays, the air thick with roasting meat, spiced wine, and the musk of too many wolves pressed close. I wanted to vanish into the kitchen shadows, but Celine's voice cut through the chaos like silk over steel. Ilara. I bowed low. Luna. Her smile was sweet enough to curdle milk. Tonight, you serve the Alpha. Only him every head turned. Whispers rippled through the servants. My heart slammed against my ribs. Serving the Alpha in public was an honor reserved for the Luna herself. For her to command it, to strip the role from her own hands, was a humiliation worse than any slap. Yes, Luna. My voice was thin, fragile. The hall roared with laughter and chatter as the feast began. Wolves raised goblets, meat tore from bone, and the music of pipes drifted over the din. I moved silently, a shadow at Damien's side, filling his cup whenever it dipped, laying fresh bread near his plate. But every step was a trap. Celine sat across from him, her gown the color of spilled wine, her eyes glittering in the torchlight. Every movement of mine was watched, measured, weighed by her smile. Ilara, she called sweetly, silencing half the table. Taste the wine before you serve it to my Alpha. My hand froze on the goblet. Luna! Her tone sharpened, though the smile never faltered. Do it. The pack murmured, eyes narrowing. Some smirked, others frowned. An Omega tasting for poison? It was unheard of. My fingers trembled as I lifted the cup. The scent of spiced wine hit my nose, rich and heavy. I touched it to my lips, the liquid burning my tongue. Swallowing was like swallowing fire. Celine clapped her hands, delighted. See? Safe Damien's silver eyes locked on me, unreadable, storming. He hadn't touched the goblet yet. I bent, placing it before him. My knees brushed the stone floor, the heat of the fire at my back. I felt the entire hall watching, their whispers prickling like claws across my skin. Celine leaned forward, her voice carrying sweet and sharp. Tell me, Ilara, do you dream of him when you sleep? The hall went silent. My breath caught. Luna, answer, she pressed, her smile wicked. Or do you only burn when you kneel at his feet? A ripple of laughter broke from one side of the table. My face burned hot enough to sear. My throat closed around words I couldn't speak. And then Damien's voice cut through the hall like a blade. Enough. The laughter died. Wolves froze mid-bite, mid-sip. Celine tilted her head, the smile never leaving her lips, but her eyes went black. Damien's goblet sat untouched. His gaze was fixed on her now, not me. His voice was calm, low, but every syllable thrummed with command. "You shame yourself, Celine." Not her gasps rippled around the table. No one corrected the Luna. No one. Celine's smile cracked, sharp at the edges. "Do you dare?" "I dare," he said, steel in his voice. "Once more, and you'll regret it." Silence. Utter silence. I knelt frozen, heat flooding my veins, the bond pulsing so violently it hurt. The pack stared, some wide-eyed, some whispering already, the rumor blazing faster than fire on dry grass. Celine leaned back in her chair, composure sliding back into place like a mask. She lifted her goblet, drank deep, and smiled coldly at me. "Leave us, little mouse," she said softly. "The Alpha has spoken." I stumbled to my feet, retreating under 100 eyes. My skin burned, my pulse a drumbeat of terror. I didn't need to look back to know. The war had left the shadows, and Celine would not forgive this. Sleep was a stranger to me after the feast. Every whisper in the hall replayed in my mind. The Alpha defied the Luna. The Omega is his weakness. Each rumor was a knife, and each knife pointed at me. Celine hadn't spoken again that night. Not to me, not even to him. She left in silence, her gown trailing like blood across stone. That silence was more terrifying than her laughter. By dawn, I was summoned again, not to serve, but to clean. Her chamber was empty, the air thick with perfume and fury. I moved carefully, scrubbing, folding, collecting discarded silks. My body still ached from the poison she had fed me days ago, but worse was the weight of knowing she was plotting. Celine did not lose battles. She simply delayed victory. As I lifted a pile of gowns from the chair, something clattered to the floor. A small book, leather-bound, the cover scratched with claw marks. I froze. The servants whispered of it before. The Luna's diary, hidden and guarded. None had seen it and lived to speak. My hands shook as I picked it up. The leather was warm, as if it had lain against her skin. When I opened it, the scent of ink and iron wafted out, sharp as blood. The first page made my throat close. "By blood and moon, I bind what is mine." Drawings filled the margins, circles carved by claw, the crescent rune I'd seen beneath the bed. Beside it, notes scrawled in a fevered hand. The Alpha strays, the Alpha forgets, but the rune remembers for him. I flipped faster, my pulse hammering. Page after page, Celine's madness spilled out. Another Omega, always another. They think his eyes mean something. They burn, they fall, they wither. He returns to me. He must. I will carve the vow deeper. I will bleed into the wood. He will not break. He cannot. And then, worse. Alara, mouse, shadow. Too quiet, too soft. He looks longer this time. I will end her before the next moon. My breath hitched, the letters swimming. My name, written in Celine's hand. A death sentence waiting to be signed. The last page was fresh, ink still drying. The ritual must be soon. A sacrifice beneath the blood moon. His bond to me will shatter her, not him. Her blood will feed the vow. A drop of something darker than ink stained the corner. I touched it with a fingertip. Sticky. Crimson. Blood. My stomach lurched. The diary slid from my grip, thudding softly against the floor. "Alara!" The voice was behind me. Low. Rough. I spun, heart racing. Damien stood in the doorway, shadows clinging to his frame. His silver eyes caught the candlelight, flicking to the diary at my feet. His jaw tightened. "What have you found?" I opened my mouth, but no words came. My throat was dry, my pulse a scream. The diary lay between us, claw-marked and damning, and I realized this wasn't just Celine's madness. It was her weapon. The diary's weight pressed against the floor like a stone. I wanted to shove it back beneath the gowns, pretend I'd never touched it. But Damien's eyes pinned me where I stood. Silver, storming, searching. I bent, trembling, and picked it up. My fingers smeared the fresh ink. His voice came low, dangerous. "Show me." I hesitated. "Luna, Celine is not here." The words were clipped, sharp. "Now show me." I held it out. His hand brushed mine as he took it, and the bond sparked hot enough to sear. My knees nearly buckled. He opened the diary with care, flipping through the claw-marked pages. His expression did not change, but his jaw tightened with each line. Finally, he stopped. Read aloud in a voice rough as gravel. "Alara. Mouse. Shadow. Too quiet. Too soft. He looks longer this time. I will end her before the next moon." The sound of my name in his mouth sent a shiver down my spine. Not tender, not hungry. Protective. Furious. I whispered, "She means it." His gaze lifted, meeting mine. "I know." Silence throbbed between us, filled only by the crackle of the hearth. He closed the book, fingers lingering on the claw marks as though they burned. She bound the vow under our bed. His voice was lower now, more to himself than to me. Her blood. Her madness. She thought it would chain me, and did it? My voice broke. His eyes snapped back to mine. Silver fire. "No." The word came fast, fierce, like a vow in itself. But the bond pulsed between us, hungry and undeniable, and I felt the truth he didn't say. Not enough. He stepped closer, so close I could smell the cedar in his skin, sharp and clean even under the weight of Celine's perfume lingering in the room. "Alara." My name, softer this time, a sin and a prayer tangled together. "You shouldn't have seen this." "I had to," I whispered. "She'll kill me." His hand clenched around the diary. "Not while I breathe." The words struck like lightning. My chest burned, my throat tight. For a heartbeat, I almost believed him. Believed that an alpha's vow could shield an omega against the Luna's wrath. But then I remembered the oath rune under the bed, the diary's last words. Her blood will feed the vow. My lips parted, the confession tearing free. She means to use me in the ritual. The blood moon. She's going to bind you tighter. Through me his breath caught, sharp. His eyes darkened, storm rolling in. For the first time, I saw fear in the alpha's gaze. Not for himself, for me. And that terrified me more than Celine's smile ever could. The diary was still in Damien's grip when the door slammed open. Celine swept inside, her gown a storm of crimson silk, her hair unbound and wild. Her eyes found us in an instant, me standing too close, Damien's body angled toward mine, the claw-marked diary clutched in his hand. For a heartbeat, silence. Then her smile split wide, sharp as broken glass. "Well," her voice dripped sweet venom, "what do we have here?" Damien's shoulders squared, silver eyes gleaming like blades. He didn't hide the book. He didn't even move it. "Truth," he said flatly. Celine's gaze flicked from the diary to me. Her lips curved, cruel and triumphant. "Did you think you could steal from me, little mouse? Did you think you could dig your claws where they don't belong?" My throat closed. "Luna, Silence!" The word cracked like a whip, making me flinch. She stalked forward, perfume thick and choking, her hand raised as if to strike. But Damien's growl stopped her mid-step. Low, dangerous, wolf-born, the kind of sound that froze the marrow in your bones. Celine's hand trembled in the air before she lowered it slowly, fury simmering beneath her skin. Her eyes locked on him. "You dare growl at me?" At your Luna? You stopped being my Luna, Damien said, his voice steel and fire, the moment you carved this filth. He hurled the diary onto the bed. It landed open, pages fluttering. The words glared back at us, damning and raw. Her blood will feed the vow. Celine's mask cracked. Her face twisted, beautiful and monstrous all at once. You read it, she hissed. I did. His tone was calm, lethal. And it ends here. She laughed, high and sharp, her voice breaking like glass. Ends here? Fool. That vow binds you to me. No Omega can break it. No Alpha can defy it. You will crawl back to me, Damien. You always do. He took a step forward, silver eyes burning hotter than fire. Not this time. The air between them crackled, bond against bond, mate tie clashing with something older, wilder, the thread pulling me into the storm whether I wanted it or not. Celine's gaze darted to me. Her lips curled into a snarl. You. This is your doing. Your scent? Your eyes. Your trembling hands. You've poisoned him. No, Damien snapped. His body shifted slightly in front of mine, shielding me. You poisoned me. With lies. With blood runes. With chains you thought would hold Celine's scream tore the air apart. She lunged, not at him, but at me. Her nails gleamed silver in the firelight, curved like claws. I stumbled back, breath caught in my throat. But Damien was faster. His hand shot out, seizing her wrist midair. The crack of bone echoed through the chamber. Celine gasped, her eyes wide, pain flashing across her face before fury swallowed it whole. They stood locked, Alpha and Luna, eyes blazing, the diary open on the bed like a wound between them. And I realized, this wasn't just a quarrel. It wasn't even betrayal anymore. It was war. The night of the blood moon arrived draped in crimson. Its light spilled across the mountains, staining the stone red, painting every shadow like a wound. Celine stood at the altar in the clearing, her gown black as midnight, her hair crowned with silver chains. Wolves of the pack surrounded us in a tight circle, their eyes glowing in the bloodlight, their murmurs trembling with unease. I was dragged forward, wrists bound, knees forced into the dirt. The rune beneath the Luna's bed had been carved here too, etched into the altar stone, glistening wet with fresh blood. Mine. Celine's smile was wide, terrible, triumphant. Behold, she said, her voice carrying across the night. The Alpha wavers. His will falters. The bond of mate and Luna must be reforged. By blood. By sacrifice, the wolves howled, the sound splitting the sky. Damien stood opposite her, chest heaving, silver eyes glowing like molten fire. His hands clenched, claws breaking skin. The pack held him back with chains, silver chains that hissed against his flesh, smoke rising from the burns. Still he fought, straining, snarling, teeth bared. Celine! His roar cracked like thunder. Touch her, and you die. Celine laughed, the sound high and sharp. Oh, my Alpha, she crooned, lifting a silver blade gleaming with moonlight. That vow isn't yours to break. She raised the blade over me. The pack's howls reached a fever pitch, the blood moon blazing above like an eye watching. The bond inside me screamed, tugging, tearing, desperate. And then, heat flooded my chest. Not from Damien, from me. The rune beneath the altar glowed. Celine froze, eyes widening. No, she hissed. The glow spread beneath the stone, climbing like fire up my arms, searing my veins. Pain ripped through me, but it wasn't death. It was release. The suppression I had carried all my life, the silence of my bloodline, cracked open like glass shattering. The Luna's bloodline. It was mine. The truth struck like lightning. I was her mirror. the Omega they thought powerless, carrying the same blood cursed and bound to serve, but hidden, suppressed. The rune wasn't binding Damien, it was binding me, and my blood broke it. Celine screamed, stumbling back, the blade slipping from her grasp. The glow flared, pulsing once, twice, before exploding in a wave of light that threw her to the ground. Damien ripped free of the chains with a roar, silver eyes blazing. He was at my side in an instant, pulling me to my feet, his body shielding mine. Celine rose from the dirt, hair wild, eyes black with fury. "You think this saves you?" she shrieked. "He will burn you alive. His obsession will consume you as it consumed the rest." Her words cracked, desperate, unhinged. She lunged for the blade, but Damien was faster. His claws tore through her wrist, sending the weapon spinning into the grass. His growl was pure alpha, primal and final. "No more!" Celine fell, clutching her arm, her screams swallowed by the howls of the pack. Blood soaked the altar stone, dark as oil in the crimson light. The wolves watched in silence as she crumpled, her power broken, her vow shattered. And Damien's hand trembled as he touched my face, silver eyes burning with hunger, obsession, devotion. "Mine," he whispered, the word raw, desperate. The bond slammed into me, undeniable, searing. And I knew Celine hadn't lied entirely. Obsession was fire, and fire devoured. If you'd risk everything for a bond that could consume you, share this with your pack. And if you'd burn the vow to ash, subscribe, because this is only the beginning.